Now, you won't believe how much easier you will hit your driver after doing this super simple move done by the new king of simple golf swings, and that is Ludwig Åberg. Now, as we saw with him at the Masters, absolutely brilliant, amazing golfer. But absolutely, his swing is very enviable, very simplistic, but that is not by accident, that is by design. So let's dive into an analysis here of what Ludwig does that makes him be able to hit this club so effortless with his long distance and accuracy, and how you can get it into your game. So what is this move that Ludwig does here that will make your driver so much easier? And this is a non-negotiable in gaining distance. If anyone does this, you will 100% gain more club head speed. So this is getting a wider backswing. So even more in depth, it will be having a wide and longer hand path travel up to the top of your swing. That will immediately relate into higher club head speeds. So what we can see here at the top of Ludwig's swing, we can see hands way above his head. So really nice and wide. This is one thing we see of all long hitters, having their hands nice and high, because that's going to help with one thing we're going to look at in the downswing. So when we're talking about a wide backswing, and that's something so many tour players talk about when they're trying to hit some bigger drives, they get those hands stretched out away from them in their backswing. It creates a ton more speed. So that is technically the hand path travel is wider and longer. So not necessarily longer as in swing length, that will create more distance, absolutely. But as you can see here, Ludwig doesn't even get to parallel of his shaft at the top, so this would generally be considered a shorter length backswing, but he has a wide, long hand path travel. Because he's traveling the hands wide, more pushed out away from him, they are technically traveling more distance up to the top of the swing there, even though they're not quite getting to parallel. So even for golfers out there who have a little shorter swing, not many of us can get the club functionally all the way up to the top of the swing, as in getting the club to parallel there. This is a way to still generate some good distance, because what it then creates, that wide backswing, creates that narrow move in the downswing. So you can see here how that club is narrowing down, those hands are narrowing down, club getting closer to the body there. This is such a big thing where we see most amateur golfers do the opposite. They get really narrow up to the top and then they get really wide coming down. So that narrowing down there is creating a ton of speed. This is where that speed is ultimately coming from. This is where it's starting to generate there. Because of course, loading up on the backswing, that's not gaining you any speed. That's not moving fast. That's loading it up. This is where it's actually happening. But that's all a result of because of that longer, wider hand path travel. And then that speed is coming into the ball. Because for a lot of you, absolutely watching Ludwig when he was playing absolutely brilliantly in the Masters, looking at his swing, it looks effortless, it looks simple. That's because he does effortless and simple moves like this nice wide backswing, big long hand path travel. So let's talk about a great way to get this into your swing. There is some really good feels and drills here to do to get this in there. But we've got to understand first, before we dive into that, what to avoid doing. So many amateur golfers do the opposite, like we've alluded to, and the things to look out for to get rid of in your swing, and then to replace it with the good stuff. So like we could see there, the wide backswing is so important. Gets that club wide, that nice big long hand path travel, for then the club to get closer, that wide to narrow, that picks up a ton of speed. But as we said, that is not what amateur golfers do. So before we talk about how to get this into your swing, really simple feels here, but what do amateur golfers do? They do the exact opposite. They go narrow in that backswing, bring those hands in close to the body. So not closer to the body as in this way, close as in away from them, wide away, close to you. So they're close to the body, and then as they move up, they've got this real narrow backswing. They usually bend their arms as a result there, and now they've got to fire those hands out. So where are they then having the predominant amount of their speed? In transition when they throw it away from them. So they're having those arms throw out away, so go from narrow to wide, and that is terrible from a distance standpoint. Now I would demonstrate that here, but I can almost guarantee I'll probably sky it and miss my net completely. So we do not want to do that. We want to then have nice effortless speed. So I tell you what, narrow to wide is not effortless. That'll be coming off the golf course like you've just done a gym session. You want to be wide, narrow, and then getting through the golf ball. So let's talk about some drills after I hit this one. Now the drills here are much more feel orientated, which is a great thing for you out there watching, because you could do this on the golf course pretty quickly. So that's where our main thing we want to get straight away is a wide takeaway. Like we said in the analysis, so many top players in the world, when they're trying to hit really nice big drives, they try to get that club moving away from them really quickly. So not moving away from them as in front, that would be terrible. That would make you just have a lack of depth and slice it. You want to still be having those hands and arms going around you, following the mirrored version of the swing arc, pushing away there. That is going to give you some really nice width. If you're getting in that takeaway and feeling wide, that is going to carry on up to the top. You're not just going to get wide and then narrow it again. That momentum of being wide is going to bring you all the way up to that wider hand path travel. So you could do some waggles here. Nice and wide, loose arms at the same time. So that's where nice loose arms, nice and wide, get those waggles in, then replicate it with a ball. And that will be absolutely brilliant for you to have a feel that you can get onto the golf course straight away to do everything we just talked about. And this is where with that feel, we talked about loose arms. This is so important because you could be wide, and if you're wide and tense, you're not going to have that narrowing effect in the downswing. So if you're not having that narrowing effect, then we're pretty much wasting the reason of why we're doing this. That creates that speed, like we said on the analysis. So if we can make sure the arms are feeling really light and loose, and we're wide and then transitioning down, the club will naturally lag, it will naturally get closer, because then as we're turning with those light and loose arms, that body is going to start to be in more control. Then when those arms are light and loose, that left arm essentially starts to pin into the body, which creates a huge stretch up the left-hand side. And a bigger stretch you get, the more you're going to be able to release that stretch for more power. So that's where those light and loose arms aren't just for the sake of being smooth. Of course, they make your swing look nice and smooth, but then it creates that left arm to pin in. That creates that huge lat stretch, and that's what really creates a ton of power, along with, of course, good sequencing. The lower body's going to unwind properly. So nice and wide, but then really loose with those arms coming down from there. So really loose and wide. So the last thing here, guys, and I'll say this until I'm blue in the face, and this is the most important part, exaggerate. So this is regardless of what you're working on the golf swing, you need to exaggerate. So exaggeration when you're doing a practice swing, so this is all practice swing, you can exaggerate with the ball as well. This is where we get into feel versus real. So we want to feel like those hands are really going up as high as we can physically get them. And then nice and loose, getting that club to really narrow down. So up here, boom, up here. So you can see I'm just performing that first little bit really high, and then light and loose arms, and it naturally falls and narrows. Looks crazy, doesn't it? Absolutely does. If I did it to that extent with a ball, I wouldn't hit a good shot. That's exaggeration. You need to exaggerate. So many golfers do not improve in their golf swing because they find exaggeration silly, which that golfer, you know, that golfer is never going to improve if you find exaggeration silly. We see all the best players in the world do crazy looking exaggerations. We're seeing Tiger at the range of the Masters doing the most crazy looking hip move. Don't be afraid to do it. Who cares what someone thinks of you on the driving range? Because I tell you what, they're probably not a good golfer. And if they are, absolutely, that shows their character. If they're thinking you look funny and they're judging you from doing exaggerations, do not care what people think, because doing exaggerations is going to help you a ton. You've got to feel the other way to be able to get where you want to. So that's where, if you're feeling that really, really high to the extent you can get and then really narrow, that's going to be so much easier to hit the middle ground of that when you've got a ball in the way. Nice and wide, nice and loose arms. There we go. So don't be really afraid at anything you're working on to exaggerate, especially this. Do not care what people think of you, because you're going to become a much better golfer than them. Now, if you enjoyed this video, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video.